Come make me tell you about the things them way I go sir. Back in the days when the dancehall used to warm sir. When Clinton Lindsay used to bust them, make them go sir. Whole heap of artists Clinton bring come up America. Some never know say Clinton Lindsay.
Hi, welcome back to Now You Know with Clinton Lindsay. Hope you've been enjoying what you have heard so far. And this is where I tell my stories. We're living in an age of misinformation, people saying things that are not actually so. And once I'm involved, I can tell you straight up how it was. So we call this series Now You Know with Clinton Lindsay. Today I'm gonna be talking about Papa San versus Lt Stitchie. I know a lot of people find it very interesting, but I'll tell you how I saw it. By 1986, Papa San, I started working with him maybe 86, 2 years prior, and he had become my favorite DJ. In my capacity as a booking agent, disc jockey, management and so on, when people ask me who's my favorite DJ, it's hard to give an answer because I measure DJ in various categories, speech and lyrics and performance and so on and so on. So it's hard to say who my favorite DJ is because all these factors I put into one to come with. Like say, for instance, Tiger, one of the best performers on stage. So by 1986, Papa San, not the greatest of performer, but I love his lyrics. So he was at that point my favorite DJ. I went down to Jamaica, came to Jamaica early 87. And the first thing I was told as I landed in Jamaica is that Papa San is going to be in a clash tonight. It was a Wednesday night. And I'm like, a clash? Yvonne, and you'll be hearing that name a lot. She took care of my business and she was a talent scout. She was the one that would go around and let me know who is hot and what's happening. So she said to me that Papa San is going to be clashing with this guy named Lt Stitchie. And I'm like, Lieutenant who? She said, Lt Stitchie. I said, who is he? She said, well, between the two of them, they have Spanish Town locked. Half a Spanish Town for Stitchie, half a Spanish Town for Papa San. I'm like, what? Stitchie? She said, I'm like, is he that good? She said, well, he's good enough. He's going to be clashing with Papa San tonight. I said, man, that's an interesting one. I got to be at this dance because I want to see who is this Stitchie. He bold enough, bad enough to challenge Papa San. And, I was told that he's from Spanish Town. And I'm like, wow. I decided I'm going to go to the dance. I said to Yvonne that I don't want her to tell the selector, the sound people that I'm coming to the dance. I don't want her to tell Stitchie, I don't want her to tell Papa San that I'm coming to the dance. The reason why I want to see both of them natural, in their natural environment. Because I figured if San knew I was there, he's got to, do extra stuff to impress. And if Stitchie knew I was there, he will do the same thing. By them not knowing that I'm in the dance, they will just be in their natural, state. In those days, I usually carry a white towel just to, Jamaica hot, and I always have a white towel. So, and people usually can identify, he has a white towel around his neck. And I decided I was gonna go to the dance, but I'm not gonna have my white towel on. So I went to the dance. It was near Greendale. Twickenham Park in that area. There was a little place out there. Came into the dance. I stood behind this little shed and I'm just watching the action. When I came in, it was just the sound playing and they were juggling the music. Eventually Papa San came in and he went up. He started doing his thing. Then Lieutenant Stitchie, first time I'm seeing him, and he started doing their thing. At first it was just friendly, battering between the two of them. There was no sign of a clash. Went on until I realized now that they're getting a bit serious now. And then the lyrics starts to flow and they were going at each other and I'm there, wow, this guy Stitchie is good. Wow, I was very impressed because You know, they were just going. San lyrics, Stitchie's lyrics, lyric for lyric, they were just going at each other, lyric for lyric. Maybe was there for about an hour, and I said to Ivan, you know, I've seen enough. I am very impressed by Lieutenant Stitchie. Don't have to say how impressed I was with San. I thought San held his own, but Stitchie was very, very impressive. I told Ivan that, you know, make arrangement for Stitchie to come and check me the next day, because I'm very much interested in him. So I left the dance, and the next day Stitchie did come. We introduced ourselves. I said, man, you know, last night I was very impressed with with your performance last night. He said he didn't know I was in the dance. I said, yeah, that was on purpose, because I didn't want you to know. Because I believe if you knew I was there, you know, you would maybe try to do more, overdo it. So I started questioning him. I learned from him that he is with a sound called Stereo One. And I believe his manager at the time, Clifton Henry, had come with him. But maybe Clifton was outside, not a part of the discussion with me and Stitchie. I asked Stitchie if he had any records, because, you know, as good as I saw him, I would still need records to take back to New York to start promoting him, because without the records it's no use. So he said he had some songs but didn't do much in terms of charting. I remember a couple of records he brought to me, eventually brought to me. So I told him I'm interested in him and that, you know, I want to get these records, take them back to New York, start to promote him, build an audience for him, and then I'll bring him up. Before I left Jamaica, he brought me some records that he had a year, 2 years prior. I remember Story Time was one. Balaba was another one. Never heard of these songs before. Never heard of it. So he gave me about 4 records. Took them to New York and I started playing it. Eventually, people were saying that they know of him. The Kingstonians, them in the audience, say, yeah man, him youth are bad and da 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 da. After a few months, I figured now it's time to bring him to New York. At the time, he was with the set, Stereo One, and I've decided after talking to him and his manager a couple of times, after the first time seeing him, I've decided that I will, instead of just him, just bring the set, Stereo One set to New York. And that's what we decided to do. Once we decided I'm going to bring the set, they will give me dub plate of the set, you know, special of the set. And in all my years in the business, they gave me a dub plate with Frankie Paul singing about. It took it from the song Word Up. Word Up. For the first time in my career, I'm playing dub plate of a song on the radio. That's not all. People were actually calling, requesting, because Frankie Paul did such a fantastic job with that dub plate, that special for Stereo One. It could have been released as a song. I remember one guy called from Brooklyn one night and said to me, why Clinton, jam is a my sound, you know, but you see a dub plate there with Frankie Paul. Pull it up for me now, play it for me now. And it was such a good dub plate. Never heard a dub plate turn into request. Eventually I passed that, you know, that message down to Stitchie and Clifton Henry that, yo, this dub plate, if it's turned into a song, I just take out Stereo One name out of it, I think it would be a hit song. And eventually I think they did that. With that dub plate being so popular in New York at the time, I also figured that once the sound gets to New York, it's gonna be massive. Eventually, the sound came up in June, July of 1987. They did well. Stitchie and I, over the years, have maintained our relationships. And as you know, he went on to sign major contracts and major labels and so on. Around the same year, maybe later down in the year, I had one of the biggest dances in Brooklyn I called Dancehall Explosion. Admiral Bailey was coming in for the first time. Pinchers was coming in. Shinehead, Rhythm Kings was on the show. Barry G was the MC. It was at the Empire Roller Rink in Brooklyn. Stitchie was still a sound DJ. He wasn't like a performer artist of that caliber at that time. But I remember the night of the show, he came to me and he Pinchers was on the show, Admiral Bailey, Peter Metro. I mean, the big names of 87. Loving Deer was on that show too. Coco T was on that show. That was a massive show. Reading Kings backing them up. And he came to me, Stitchie, and asked me if I could let him open the show. I said, Stitchie, you know, this is a tough one, you know. This is, you're talking, he's asking me for the opportunity to just let him open the show. I said, listen, brethren, Barry G is here. And if you open the show and you do well, first thing Monday afternoon, Barry gonna be on JBC talking about your performance. So you definitely have to do well on this show. I gave him the opportunity. He went on stage. He wasn't built for the show. He wasn't on the flyer or anything. But I said, you know, go up there and do your best. That's exactly what Lieutenant Stitchie did. Barry was on the radio by Monday evening on JBC talking about, you know, his review of the show. And he gave Stitchie a very, very good review. And I think that's one of the things that opened Stitchie in Jamaica. Barry G talking about him at the roller rink in Brooklyn. Personally speaking, I think Stitchie is one of the best lyricists. For me, the difference between him and Papa San in terms of lyrics. Papa San lyrics will go from here to Timbuktu. Non-stop. He will just keep going that. You know, Stitchie will have his lyrics and there's an end to the story. Like if you hear Wear Your Size, that's a long, long story. To this day, we still have a good relationship. And that's just the way it was. Now you know. Now you know. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment if you would like to. Thank you for watching.
And Lindsay a promoter. Bring up the biggest set of artists from Jamaica. Like Super Cat and Mr. Early be the doctor. Only for artists, no for them me can't remember. Who can remember when them used to keep Jamaica? The kind of show that used to give out no for water. To reggae artists.